Punctuation. Underappreciated, overutilized, and generally abused. So the four most disrespected types of punctuation are commas, periods, semicolons, and quotation marks. So what is actually the purpose of punctuation? Punctuation marks are written signals that tell us how a sentence should be read. These important signals tell the reader where sentences end, making the text easier to understand. Without correct punctuation, writing can be very difficult to comprehend. The human brain requires time to process information. Properly placed punctuation marks are one way we help ourselves process written information. Commas. Why do you hate the comma? It's a noble punctuation mark. It allows for related ideas to be in the same sentence while giving the reader a little time to pause and reflect. You should use a comma when you're writing a list or separating a series, or you're separating an independent clause from a dependent clause. So you begin your sentence with your dependent clause, you have a comma, and then independent clause, period. So what's missing? His kind, warm, loving personality made him popular with his peers. Here's a hint. There are two commas missing from the sentence. Where do you need them? Why do you need them? So you've got a list of characteristics. Kind, warm, loving personality made him popular with his peers. Understanding the reasons for needing commas can help you use them correctly the first time. Take a look. Here you've got kind, warm, loving adjectives, separated with commas. Now, coordinating conjunctions love commas. Here are your fanboys, and here are the commas that separate them. He failed his test, for he had not studied. Comma, and then you have your coordinating conjunction. She is our professor, comma, and she cares about our success. He is not our teacher, comma, nor does he want to be. Lainey is our friend, comma, but she isn't very reliable. This signals information that's kind of contrary to your other independent clause. We will go to Disneyland, comma, or our friends will cry. They moved to Los Angeles, comma, yet they want to return to the Central Valley. And Michael wanted to improve his use of commas, comma, so he watched this video many times. Here's another problem. Periods. Now, most people seem to know when to put a period, that you need one at the end of a sentence, but sometimes you need them more often than you think, especially in the case of run-on sentences. So what is a run-on sentence? And what is missing in run-on sentences? And what is a sentence? And how many ideas should be in each one? These questions are very important in thinking about periods. A period is used at the end of a complete thought. If you have many lines of writing and you can't find a period anywhere, comma, you might need to add a period. So when to use a period? A period belongs to the end of a complete thought. Using a period in the right place helps our audience understand our ideas better. Semicolons. Semicolons are used to separate two related ideas. This is instead of a period. So you've got a semicolon between two related independent clauses. Has your professor ever told you to stop writing comma splices? Are you tired of hearing this? Are you not really confident about how to fix it? Fear not. A comma splice is just a place to use a semicolon. In the place where you used to put a comma, please put a semicolon instead. Take a look. My teacher is brilliant. She always gives me great advice about improving my writing. Two independent clauses, right? Independent clause 1, independent clause 2. They're both complete sentences, but it's a comma in the middle instead of a semicolon. So if you remove the comma and replace it with a semicolon, punto coma, if you grew up learning punctuation in Spanish, then you're going to have a complete sentence. And it'll be a complex one. We've got two independent clauses, one on each side of the semicolon. So when to use a semicolon? Semicolons are used to connect two related sentences. Students love commas. Teachers love commas. Both sentences are related to punctuation, so they can be joined by a semicolon. A terrible example would be, I like dogs. My son throws food on the floor. These two sentences are unrelated. They probably don't even belong in the same paragraph, let alone the same sentence. Do not join two unrelated sentences like these with a semicolon. Quotation marks. When you are writing something that another person has said, you need to give them credit for their words. You can achieve this by using quotation marks. Kulzer, that's me. So you've got your quotation mark here, the quotation mark here, parentheses, parentheses, and then a period after the parentheses for MLA documentation. An important idea to consider is if the quotation marks are necessary or not. How do you know if the quotation marks are needed? Don't use quotation marks to emphasize a word. For example, I thought he was so handsome. This doesn't make any sense. Explain to me what purpose these quotation marks serve. It's a great example of overused and generally abused punctuation. For quotation marks, you can use them in direct speech, so an exact representation of language, exact words. In indirect speech, you won't need quotation marks. Okay, you're paraphrasing. Paraphrases do not require quotation marks, but they do require you to put things into your own words. So here's an example of a place where you can find some of these examples, some more examples about quotation. So in summary, you have commas, periods, quotation marks, and semicolons as the most abused punctuation.